Lots of energy today. I feel energy anyway. Really enjoy being with you folks, you truck drivers. And we're starting kind of a new series. Every once in a while I'm going to put out a video for you new truck drivers. Drivers who haven't even started yet. And we're going to start with the very basics. The basic of basics. And because I don't want you to feel left out. We're a channel mostly for owner-operators, but for those of you who are new, this gives you something to build on, some way for you to learn, because you don't know what to expect. And that's what the show is about today. Every Saturday, by the way, noon, right here on this Indiana Jack channel, Ask a Trucking Recruiter. And you can send your questions to me, Indiana Jack, at askatruckingrecruiter.com, and I'll answer it right here on the show. Eventually we will have a call-in feature, but we don't have that yet. This show is about, as a new truck driver, brand new, what will you expect to happen that first year out there on the road? And what gives our channel a unique perspective is, of course, you know, many of you know that I was a truck driver for 12 years. And then I came in the office as a safety director, and now I'm in recruiting. So you get the unique perspective of me being able to tell a story with all three of those things under my belt, so to speak. So that is what I come to you with, some knowledge of truck driving and the trucking industry. We're going to get right into it. We're going to address in this show what you'll expect to happen to you in the first year as a truck driver. I think the hardest thing that you're going to expect here, let's go over to these folks. Same group over here. What you're going to expect is a big change in the lifestyle. And I hear a lot of truck drivers saying this over and over and over, but that's true. It's a lifestyle more than it is just a job, you going in working 9 to 5 at a bank or at a construction site or wherever you work now, or wherever your job is at not trucking. That's going to be the biggest culture shock coming on this job as a truck driver, is getting used to the lifestyle. There will be so much for you to learn that first year that hopefully that will be the distraction for you, because man, your mind's so occupied with learning so much new stuff. Hopefully that will overshadow the shock of missing the loved ones at home, being able to see your wife and kids every day. That is a shock. But keep focused on learning everything, not just the pre-trip, not just all the things that you're going to learn in trucking school, but learning the road, learning how far you can make it in a day, how long it's going to get you to take it, how long it's going to take you to get to the shipper and receiver. And those things seem so easy to the guy who's in a different position or career. He says, well, what's so hard about that? Boy, he doesn't understand all the rules that you will have to follow as a new driver. I do want to bring this up, talk about one thing before we go forward. Speaking of new drivers, we have a sponsor called NuGo Trucking. I've been talking about them for quite a while now. They are new to us, and they're our newest sponsor, so I always like to put them first. get them comfortable with this show and with you folks. They are a good, solid trucking company. To work there, you have to have 2 years of experience, no at-fault accidents, no at-fault major violations for the past 3 years. They provide for you constant pay. It's not like some companies where you'll be up and then some companies you'll be down, but you'll get a constant paycheck because what? Your wife and kids need that check too, right? Of course they do. So they can provide you with constant pay. They provide for you an expense card, a fuel card, pre-pass. Their trucks have APUs and generators or generators in them, which is kind of nice. They provide for you good home time, no forced dispatch, a breakdown package, flexible scheduling, health, dental, and vision program, which is nice. They're a solid company that treats people right, and they treat you like family. That's good to hear. I'll put the link down below so that you can contact Gerald over there. He's the pop in the mom and pops part. I always talk about them being the last mom and pops trucking company out there. He'll definitely treat you like a pop. So make sure you tell him Indiana Jack sent you. If you want a company job, if you want to be an owner-operator, then be an owner-operator. But if you just want to drive and enjoy the scenery out there, call NuGo, call Gerald, tell him that I sent you. They'd be happy to talk to you. After CDL school, where CDL school, all they do is teach you how to pass your test. That's it. They don't teach you how to be a truck driver. Their goal, usually in 3 weeks, is just to teach you how to pass the test. Yes, it takes a whole course just to learn how to pass the test. So after that, because that's the first thing that you need to do after you and your wife have decided that you're going to make this your career, you'll go out with your trainer. And the trainer is supposed to teach you how to be a real truck driver and teach you the rules of the road, how to do this, how to do that, how to back in, how to communicate with shippers, receivers, how to live on the road. And if you get a good trainer, and that's the key, he will do all those things for you, not CDL school. So don't blame CDL school for not teaching you how to drive a truck. That's not what they do. It's the trainer that you go out with. And when I was a truckling, I went out with my trainer for 275 hours of me driving. A couple of times I was tired. He cheated and drove for me. Don't tell anyone. No one is supposed to do that, but that did happen to me. You never know really what's going to happen out there with your trainer. It's like a whole different world for you as a truck driver. So don't go out there with an expectation, because you really don't know what's going to happen. You just pray, if you're a praying type folk, that you get a good trainer, and you will probably be a good truck driver at that point. And if he is a trainer that's not so good, you can learn from that. Take what you see him doing and you say, oh my gosh, well, you've just learned something, right? You just learned not to do that. So learn from his positives and his negatives, because since he's human, he's going to have some negatives, right? I was a trainer. I really didn't know what I was doing, but I passed on the knowledge that I had at that time, and hopefully it did the dozen people or so that I trained when I was a trainer. So learn from your trainer. This might be the hardest part if you're following along. The hardest part of anything of this era of your life, this season, and that is learning to be with a guy, I'm going to say, in a small 4x8 box. It's a little bigger than that, but you understand what I mean. For that much time. Think about that. You don't know the guy from Adam. You're trapped in that box going 65 miles an hour down the road. You have to learn to deal with that person. And it's hard enough living in a house with a stranger, let alone that small, confined place. I think out of everything that you're going to learn, even blindside backing, that might be right up there with that. Blindside backing is the hardest thing you can do, in my opinion. But being in a truck with a trainer for 275 hours is equally tough. Equally tough. Another thing you should be aware of during this season of your trucking career, you will not be making very much money. A few times when I was a driver, over the years, I would always keep my CB channel on, even at night. But a few times I'd hear over the CB some lone voice of a guy who says, hey, I'm kind of down on my luck. Can anybody loan me, $5 so I can get a sandwich? Can you imagine how humbling that was for him to say that? So that guy, one, he didn't make enough money, or two, he didn't know how to manage his money. So I would not come into truck driving at all without some money to survive your first, especially that first year. But especially when you're brand new, don't come out with no money, because you're not going to be making much money. Please, don't be that guy. If you can even afford a CB radio, I think that's should be mandatory for all truck drivers to have a CB radio, but a lot of the newer guys these days, for some reason, they don't buy them, which I don't understand. If it's because they don't want to communicate with anyone, or I don't know. You should buy one, because it's a very wise thing for you to do, to have a CB radio. And we'll have a show about that specifically at a different time. The next phase, after you get out of your training truck, man, that's exciting. I was so excited. Where I was, which was Lakeland, Florida, they didn't have any trucks. I waited there for a week for a truck. So finally they put me in a rent-a-car, and I drove all by myself up to Springfield, Ohio, and that's where I got my first truck. Springfield, Ohio. So this is where you start to feel like a real truck driver, where they hand you the keys, you go out, you inspect that truck and make sure that that truck is clean, make sure it's, you do a thorough pre-trip on it, make sure it's what you want, because once you sign for it, then you're responsible as a captain of that ship. So make sure that that's the truck you want. A lot of guys were really finicky. By the time I got my truck and was ready to get my load, my first load, guys were still refusing trucks because they wanted a different truck or they wanted whatever. But I thought they were being too picky. all the trucks that were there had a flaw of some kind. So that will be the next phase of your truck driving career, and that is finding that truck that you want to drive. This show is driven by questions that you guys send in right here to Ask a Trucking Recruiter. Our friend Huntet writes in, what happens if you're late? What happens if your load is late? If you're just talking about one load, I don't think that's a big deal. But I don't remember ever being late if it was my fault. It was always some other reason that I was late. Here's what your trucking company, your dispatcher, broker, boss, whatever you want to call them, is going to look at. How many times were you late? If you're late every time, they're going to let you go. But if you plan everything just right, Huntet, you'll never be late. Don't worry about that. Even with ELDs, you won't be late unless there's like a major weather. In that case, everyone's late and they're going to understand. But don't worry about that. Don't be late. If you are late, explain to your dispatcher why you're late, and then they can explain that to the broker. If you're dealing with just brokers, call the broker and tell them the situation. That's all you can do. But don't be late. I don't know if that helps you. But who is responsible for that? You, since you're the captain of your own ship. If that ship doesn't arrive when it's supposed to, you're responsible for that. So just don't be late, and you won't have to worry about that. All right. Send in your questions, please. Ask at askatruckingrecruiter.com, and I'll answer it right here. The next phase of you being for the first year of what you can expect, you'll learn, believe me, you'll learn how to back up, because it'll be at 1 o'clock in the morning and you're so tired you're going to have to back in to that last place in the whole truck stop, or you're not going to sleep. So to me, that kind of thing forced me to learn. It forced me to get out there and look in the back to see where I was backing into. It forced me to be a better truck driver. So this is the phase where you're learning to do all these things, not with a trainer, but by yourself. You have to learn all these things. I actually preferred to back up with no one helping me. I've told you that over the years on the Indiana Jack channel. If there's guys back there telling me to do that and all those signals and do this and move like that, I can't concentrate. But I can concentrate if it's just me, my tractor, and backing up. And we'll do shows on backing up later. But this is the phase that you're in. It's the learning phase of how to be a real truck driver, doing your trip planning, and making your own decisions so that what Huntet asked us won't happen to you. You will not be late for a delivery. If you're late a lot, the dispatcher will either fire you or they'll give you the crappiest loads where there's 4 days on it, but it really takes only 2 days to get there, and you're losing a lot of money if that's the case. The next phase, other than just worrying about things like pre-trip inspections and backing up, now you have to figure out where to go, the quickest way to get there so you're not late. Again, that's the learning phase. Planning your route. If it's a 3-day trip, where are you going to stop for the night? You should know even ahead of time, and this will take some time, but the 3rd night of your trip, you should know where you're going to be and where you're going to stop. You won't know that at first, but eventually you will. If you're terrible with directions at home, you'll probably be terrible with directions planning a trip. So maybe this is not the career for you. I'm just saying, if you're learning to be a truck driver, if you have trouble getting around town, maybe this is not the career for you. Okay, the next phase for you, same phase, different category. And this is where I might differ from some of the old timers, older old timers than me. They always say to call the company you're going to, whether it be the shipper or receiver. I never called a shipper or receiver, not even once. I called them when I got there. I called them when I didn't know which door to go to, but I never called them and to say, how do I get there from the freeway? I don't know where to go. I never said that. I never called them. So you have to make up your mind. Just if you do get through to someone when you're making your deliveries, don't call the receptionist and ask her, because she's going to tell you how she gets there in her car, which is not how you go as a truck driver. You go a completely different way, a completely different door. You go on a truck route. If you use a trucker GPS, it will tell you how to go most times, but don't always rely on that. You have to rely on what? Your own common sense. Don't talk to a receptionist. Ask her to send you back to the shippers and receivers. They never answer their phones, but you can try. When you get there, when you arrive, when you finally find it, park on the street, walk in, and look where you're going to back in. Don't just pull in and say, well, where do I go now? Stop. Try to pull over, but most warehouses have a center lane for trucks, a turning lane before you turn in. Put your flashers on, get out of the truck, go in there, look, make sure there's a place to turn into, and do that rather than pull in and there not be a turnaround in there, because then you're stuck, right? Be aware of your surroundings. I would, for your first year, try to avoid blindside backing. I had to do one my first year, and I did it okay. It took me a while. Not as long as you've seen my video about the Swift drivers. It was nothing like that, but boy, I felt like them. But try to avoid a blindside backing at first, because I think that might be number one of the hardest things to do, if not being in a truck with another driver that you don't know. Like I said earlier, those two things are right there. This show, as I said earlier, is driven by your questions at Ask a Trucking Recruiter. Send your email to, or we take the comments right out of YouTube. We do that, and more we're getting comments, and I appreciate that, you guys writing and your comments, and we'll read them right here. And that's where this comment comes. Thank you, Tina, for writing in. Where can I get a free copy of my DAC report? Let me start by telling you what a DAC report is, because a lot of people don't know what that is. It is a report on you as a truck driver of how you performed at a company, so that trucking companies will know who they're hiring. Because when you go apply to a truck driving company, you're just going to tell them all the cool stuff you did, and you were never late and you were the best driver ever, right? Well, that doesn't give the company, who has maybe a different story, how do they tell what really happened to them as the company? So a DAC report is a report card on you as a driver that a company can write on the things that happen. Like, for instance, if you abandon a truck, which is the worst thing you can do in trucking. If you abandon your truck, what does the company do? They have no recourse, really, except to put that on your DAC report. So the next company that you go to apply to won't hire you because you're known for abandoning equipment or abandoning loads. That's worse. She's asking, can I get a free copy of that? Yes, you can. And I'll put some information down below. You got to call a company called HireRight. They actually own DAC now. Not to be confused with DAT, the load board folks, but this is DAC. And they'll if you call them, they'll tell you how to do it. I will say this, be ready for a long call. You're talking to a call center like Dell Computers that's in India or maybe Pakistan. So you will have to try to explain to them what you need, and they're pretty good, but you will be on the phone for quite a while. HireRight out of Irvine, California, right where I used to make deliveries. Call them and they'll get you hooked up with your DAC report, but that's provided that you have been with a company right before when you're calling, or if you're in their system. If you're not there and you don't have anything, I don't think, obviously they can't give you a copy of something that's not there. We were talking about DAC just now. DAC, not to be confused with DAT. No, we're talking about DAT now. See, you got me all confused. DAT is a load board that you need to have at your trucking company, and make sure that, being an owner-operator, once you're done with this phase, what we're talking about this morning, that you get a load board that you can find your loads on. And DAT, the world's largest load board, has the most loads on it where you can get a load for your trucking business. I'll put the link below where you can call them, look for a load, get a load, and be on the road with DAT Solutions. If you click on the link that I give you, you'll get 1 month free. Tell them Indiana Jack sent you. And our other sponsor, Traveloko, home of 85%, where you get to pick your own loads and be the boss of your own truck driving company. Okay, moving on. We're almost through a whole year of truck driving. I would suggest, and this is very difficult sometimes, but I would suggest your first year, try to avoid cities like Chicago. If the load that you're going to is in the central part of Chicago, chances are you're going to have to go in a area where the bridges are too low and you're going to hit the top of your truck. Don't be one of those people on YouTube where they show you crashing into a railroad bridge, okay? Don't do that. Read the signs, low bridge ahead, or look for that 13.6. Don't be on YouTube and have us embarrassed as a trucking company. Try to avoid those cities in your first year. This is what you can expect, that first year out there. And then after that first year, you'll never hit a low bridge. Even after that first year, watch for the signs forever as a truck driver. Forever. I want to reaffirm what I said earlier, because you may be in truck driving for the scenery and the coolness of it, but you won't be making a lot of money. But you have to look at it like this. This first year is like your college. Instead of going to college and learning how to be a bookkeeper or an auto mechanic, you're learning how to be a truck driver the first year. So yes, you're making low money, but you would be making low money in any of those careers, right? Keep that in the back of your head. Jack, you're not talking about the elephant in the room. One of the biggest changes for you, especially if you're a family man coming into truck driving, is the amount of time that you will be away from your wife and kids. You need to have a phone, a laptop, or a tablet so that you can stay in touch with her and your little kids, because they're going to miss you. So that's going to be a huge challenge for you, is staying connected with your family face to face, and you can do that with technology these days. In the olden days, you couldn't do that. A lot of truck drivers had to do a lot of running around trying to find a payphone. Well, those days are gone. So be prepared for that. That might be one reason you don't want to be a truck driver. If you're a homeboy and you love only being home, you should not be a truck driver. And I take that question very serious. You should not be a truck driver. Question 3. We are a question-driven show here. Bug Bread writes, from our comments here at Ask a Trucking Recruiter regarding your immigration video, one of our most popular videos, can I get a visiting visa and apply for trucking work? What is visiting visa? A visiting visa is you getting a visa to come visit, and that's it. Then you got to go home. So a visiting visa is just that, Bug Bread. It's just for you to visit. You can't come here to work. You can't just work. Maybe you could work under the table for a couple of weeks, but I certainly wouldn't want to get caught doing that. So to answer your question, no, can't do that. And I think you knew that, but you just wanted to hear someone else say it, and I'm saying it. Talking about being lonely and wanting to talk to your wife and kids. With technology the way it is, you can do this with communicating with them with video. That really helps, and I did that quite a bit my first year. Stayed connected to family with video, because even 12 years ago, you could do video chats. I mean, took a lot longer, and internet was much slower, but it was doable. One of our last things that you're going to have to get used to, you as a new truck driver, your first year, is working with a dispatcher and getting him or her to trust you. Because that first year, he doesn't trust you yet, and you don't trust him. You're testing the waters. So going back to Huntet's question, if you're late all the time, he's going to give you crappy loads. But this will be the proving period for you, where you have to learn to work with your dispatcher. Because if you're late, or if there's any problem with you at all, any problem, he's going to give the good loads to the people he knows he can trust and he doesn't have to argue with. The squeaky wheels, yeah, he'll listen to them, but he'll give loads to the people he likes better. So try to get in good with your dispatcher so that you will get good loads out there on the road. And keep this in mind too. Put this in the back of your brain. Your loads will improve the better you get. Okay, there's hope. Okay, that after that first year, you ought to be getting good to be able to get to where you need to be going. If you're a driver that stops at casinos or cheats on his logs or whatever, you're going to be having problems, and you should not be a truck driver. That concludes our video about what you can expect the first year as a truck driver, a company driver. Usually it's a company driver, but I'd like you to, and I'm putting this at the end because those of you who watch the whole video are the people that I want here on this channel. So please hit the like button. Even if you don't like, hit the thumbs down, but preferably the thumbs up. Share this video and subscribe to this channel and put the bell marking on so that you'll get a notification when I put out a new one. Every Saturday at noon, we're right here. So please tune in. Please tell your friends about it. Remember, we're going to be doing more for the new people coming into truck driving, not just you seasoned owner-operators. And we're going to be doing a lot of shows for seasoned operators also, but for the new guys too. I'm Indiana Jack, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next week right here at noon on this Indiana Jack channel, Ask a Trucking Recruiter.